Howdy, howdy, everybody out there in YouTube land. Welcome back. So today we've got a magic talk. This is going to be a magic theory video where we go over the trick that I did on Tuesday or Wednesday. And there's a couple of layering things that I want to go over there. And there's also a couple of things that, technical issues that we had with that video. And I just want to, so what I want to do is I want to make sure that right now we've got a good camera view. Keeping in mind that what I'm using for my setup allows for a blind spot. And the reason why I do that is so that if I do a card trick where I reveal something to the camera, if I want it to be as live as possible, I will actually hold up the card in the blind spot so I don't see it. So just for you guys who don't know that, where my hand is right now, I can't see. So there's actually a huge section that I can't see, and that's partially done intentionally so that I can perform in the dark, basically. And that also does affect because I can't see. So if the camera angle is wrong or wonky, then that causes it. Plus, for the setup that I have right now, which will change, because again, all things change in life, and we just evolve and try to make things as best as we possibly can. Right now we have a very beautiful backdrop in the close-up pad, and so we want to focus on that a lot, but we have turned this into a talking channel, so it can be difficult. Right now, the way that I have it set up, you can see the pad, and you can see probably the bottom portion of my face. If I come over here, yeah, you can pretty much see my mouth, but you can't see my eyes, so it does create a little bit of a cutoff there. And I think that might be an issue. So what I might want to try to do is this. The device that I want to get actually comes with a kind of a remote access thing. So I think that's what I might need to do so that I can, for one, here's what ends up happening, right? So when I start the filming, I'll be up here like this. And then I'll start talking and doing my thing, and I might only get back to about here. But in actuality, in mind to my back frame and everything like that, we want to make sure that this time for this video you guys can see everything that's happening, because I did kind of fill in the blanks a little bit for people, but I understand that if you're coming in at different times, you might be missing comments, you might not see the full conversation, and I apologize for that. So I want to make sure that you're seeing everything, and I do want to make sure that at some point we can figure out how to get a wider frame so that you'll be able to see my face. And then at some point, because I know a lot of you have requested this, and I do apologize, especially for our card reviews, when we do our deck reviews, you guys do want some close-up. So here's what I'm going to start doing. Okay, I'm going to do a photo shoot after my deck reviews, and I'm going to post those. Some of them will go into the community tab under the post, say, hey, check these out, because I do have the video on YouTube. And then what I'll do is I'll put up the rest of the pictures on my Facebook page and on Instagram. That way you guys will have a chance to actually see what's going on behind the scenes, and you'll get some close-up views of those cards, and I think that'll work out pretty nicely. Reminding me of Instagram, we do have a giveaway that's going on that I gotta reach out to Vanit. It's the Pay It Forward for the Canis Lupus half brick. I should be getting that information pretty soon, so tomorrow you'll be able to come check us out for our live streams. We normally do 2 a month. Things have been kind of hectic, but we've been doing them. We'll explain a lot of that tomorrow, but you want to get into this card trick. So what I want to do is, I want you guys to show up tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We usually don't announce the giveaways until about halfway through the live stream or maybe towards the end. But keep in mind that we're actually doing 2 giveaways. We're doing the Pay It Forward giveaway, and then we're also doing another giveaway, which was for our 40,000 subscribers finally reached. It is so exciting that you guys are here with us. I'm glad to have gotten another group of great followers. And we tried, in the past, what I've also tried to do is do 2 live streams. One is at 11, and then one's later in the day, that way for people that are in different time zones. So we'll see if we can make that happen. If it's not tomorrow, then it might be on the 29th, which is when we will announce that second giveaway. So let's just leave that to that. So hopefully I see you tomorrow. But today what we want to do is we want to break down this trick that we did, and I want to perform I want to perform it for you here, and I want to make sure that the angles are good. So we've got 4 different decks here, and just looking at the backs of the cards here, these are reflective and these are reflective, so we probably want to stay away from those, and we probably want to go with just the slow hands. These are going to be the most natural of the 4 that I have out here, so we'll start off with these ones. Okay, so we take the deck out of the box, and really what we're looking for here is we're going to do a quick little walkthrough. Now obviously if I flash anything, fine. We're going to be teaching this throughout this video. Not necessarily teaching, but talking about it and talking through it and giving you guys an idea of what it is that we're actually trying to accomplish. So first, here's the quick little performance, and then we'll go into it. Okay, so first we're going to start off. Obviously, we want to get rid of some of the extra cards here. There we go. Very good. Give the deck a nice little shuffle. Make sure that nothing fancy is going on. Oh. It's not a knock deck. We don't have an extra one of those. Okay, so just because we like to use the fancy pad, been practicing a little bit here. Well, flop. It is known to happen. We're not looking for perfection here. We're just having a good time, and we're practicing out loud, basically. So that can happen. Also, this deck, Slow Hands from Kier Gomes, the V2s, the Tortoise backs, we've used them quite a lot, and there's actually getting some discoloration on them because when I got them, they were my top slot. So, and they're still up there towards the top. So let's keep that in mind. Okay. Now let's get into it. So the idea that we want to talk about here today is this. So we have a deck of presumably 52 playing cards. We could count them out, but let me just go ahead and show you what we have here. So let's look at the top card, which is the Queen of Clubs, right? So there's the Queen of Clubs. Now what we're going to do is and if you were here, you could tell me to actually stop. I'm going to riffle down to the side. You just tell me when to stop any way you want. Okay, we'll stop right here. We have the Queen of Clubs. Okay, let's see here. So the first card, and then we had the next one was the Queen of Clubs. Now let's take a look here at this one. That's also the Queen of Clubs. So what it seems here is that we actually have a full deck of Queen of Clubs, right? So why don't we go ahead and do a nice little fan here. As you can see, we actually have, it looks like the only card in the deck, looks like the rest of them are blank. That's kind of weird, I think. Well, let's see here. What if we snap our fingers? No, it looks like all the cards are back. But if we wave our hand here, there's our Queen. And we could probably do this all day. Okay, so a little bit of a mistake there with the fan, but that can happen. But here's the thing. When you make mistakes, we're out of the performance phase. This is still an ongoing thing because it's part of it's kind of a ambitious routine with some other things mixed in there. So I want to talk about why I did certain things and how that kind of worked out. Now, if I flashed, it's going to happen, especially when you're constantly changing angles. But just remember this. Doing the trick is only 20% of what you're doing. There has to be stuff going on in the background. And when you're on camera, there's nothing else going on besides me talking and waving my hands. Can I distract you on camera? Yes. Okay. But it's extremely difficult to do when everything is still frame around the moving parts. Okay. So let's do a breakdown and talk about the premise of what I'm doing here. I'm creating this illusion, and here's the thing, like you have the question, I'm creating the illusion that all of the cards are the same card. And this is a couple of different tricks kind of mixed together that I've seen. And like I said, I will be posting down below and talking about some of the locations where I learned some of these subtleties and tricks and stuff. So I refrained from showing the deck at the beginning, and this could be wrong. This is a good talking point. This is why this is Magic Theory and Magic Talk. You guys can put in the comments below what you guys think about what I did wrong and what I did right, and help you guys out. If nothing was right, let me know down below. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that, because I'm still technically a beginner at Magic. So if I'm doing something wrong, please let me know. So I refrained from showing the deck for this particular trick like this because we're assuming that the deck is a completed deck, which is fine, because here's what we're trying to do. So if you assume that the deck is a completed deck, okay. But what I want to do is I want to actually convince you that the deck is actually all one card. That is the truth that I'm trying to sell you. And by not showing you the deck ahead of time, I'm creating these motions with my hand that gives you the illusion that something else is happening when nothing is actually happening. So that's what I try to do, is misdirect you through those motions and those movements. Now, if I flash on what I'm doing, it doesn't sell that as well, and I get that, especially with the camera angle, but we'll talk about what I'm doing here in a second. So just breaking down that whole motion is I'm showing you 3 different cards, presumably, and trying to sell you on the idea that the whole deck is actually one card. And with an older deck like this, it's harder to do that. That's why when I did this in the performance, what I did was I went to do it like this, and then I looked at it and I noticed, so that wasn't too bad. So if you do mess up and you do have some cards, because this is the reverse fan, which we'll get into that in a second, and I'll tell you where I learned it. If you do it like this, it's not too bad. There's only one spot showing here, which you can say not all of the cards are completely blank. Some of them have some dots and stuff on them, things like that. If you totally mess up and expose like a whole thing there, you're like, oh, it looks like there might be an extra one there, because you are presumably selling them a story. The other way to do that, as part of the subtlety, is what I did was I just turned it around, and then I tried to fix it a little bit, and then I used my hand to cover up anything that was a mistake. So fine. Then here's where the part is, and this is why it's still an ongoing trick. So here's what I'm still working on. As far as after I show that reverse fan, I then reload this on the top, because I do go into a different phase after that, but I didn't quite do that in the performance, because you can have all the cards come back over here, and then you can just wave to show that this card is back on top. Obviously, if you've already shown them that all the cards are back like this, typically I wouldn't do that every time unless I want to move into a different phase, which is I basically come back into this and then I pretend like I'm going to do this again, because I want to give them the illusion that I could do it all day. And I'll even say that, well, I could actually just show you these cards all day, which is basically to continue just to show them over and over again that all the cards are the same, which you don't want to do that ambitious card wise unless you're treating that, because there should be 3 different phases. And if you treat the whole movement of the deck as one phase, you presumably could go into it a second time, but you want to change the ending to give it something different every time. And the reason why I go into a reverse fan to show that presumably that the cards are blank might not make any sense, which is fine. I mean, I'm just playing around with this. I actually kind of made that trick up based on things that I already known and been working on. So it's constantly a different thing. So why don't we break it down here for you? I'm actually working on a different version of this to kind of sell it a little bit better and get rid of things that don't quite work. So let's talk about that. So the first part of what I do is called the slip force. Okay, if you're not familiar with that, I learned it from one of the books that I have. I'm pretty sure it's Mark Wilson's. Mark Wilson's Complete Course on Magic. Couldn't remember the name for a second there. Okay, so you just go to the force section, and that's one of the things that you can do. Now, I really love the idea of the slip force for this type of situation, and I've been using it in a couple of other things as well. So the first portion of this is that you're You're just revealing the top card. There's nothing fancy here. But what I try to do is this. So if I show you that I'm doing a move like this, if you kind of catch on to what I did there, that is how I do a double lift. Okay? So when I show you the top card, I'm trying to give you the illusion that there's a double lift happening there. Just to give you that idea. Okay? And and a couple of people before have commented that I'm getting better at double lifts. So what I'm trying to give you the illusion every step of the way that something different is happening. And that's the first step. So if any of you out there, if you thought at least one time that I fooled you because you thought there was a double lift happening, let me know down below. If I never fooled you, then put it down below. What we're trying to do is we're trying to build on this, and I want to see what you guys are seeing versus what your brain is seeing versus what's working and what's not working, to see if that subtlety makes sense to you. So that even the first move that I do, flipping over a card, is in the guise of trying to fool you, because I'm trying to get one step ahead. Because if you don't know what the trick is, then you don't know what to expect next. So if you expect a double lift, then you might expect that I'm going to do something like this to go into that. That would be the case of a force. So if you're going to do a force like that, you do a double lift, showing you the 3 of diamonds, then putting their card in the deck and having their card show back up at the top, doing it the same way every time. That's what you would expect. Okay, but in this case, what I'm doing is I'm just showing you the top card, not messing around, not doing anything extra. Okay, and now the next thing I'm doing is saying I'll riffle down to the side here. Now, you could already expect to see your card, which is fine, because you might be thinking that what I actually did is if I pulled off something like this, and I got the 3 in there, then as I'm riffling down to the side, you might be thinking I'm going for some type of pinky and then doing something like that. There's any number of things that could be happening there, and that's fine. So we go into the slip force, okay, which is a very beautiful move, because you're already providing cover by pretending to grab part of the deck. So basically you're clear over here after you've shown the top card. Then you're coming down here and riffling along the side, and you're grabbing over here like this because it's protected in the back. So as you come over, as you're doing one of these subtlety moves, pretending like you're going to lift up the deck, you aren't pretending. What you're doing is you're actually creating cover, and the reason why you want to have it clamped here is so that as you do that force, it's going to grab and it's going to snap into place. As you pull away, this large movement is going to cover the small movement. Now, if they think that this card is like you're grabbing it like this, part of that subtlety is what you've done is now you've just moved your thumb from the side to the top to create that movement to turn it over. Now, you don't want to flash this card, and you want to try to do it in such a way, and this is why it's got to be, anytime that you're doing a move like this, you want it to feel natural. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to do the same thing. Like, you can use the deck like that if you want to. You're trying to give it the same appeal, okay? But remember, what you're doing here is you're actually giving it the illusion that you're double lifting, then you're coming into this like this, and then you again want to give it the idea that something else is happening than what is actually happening, and you're just moving along. Now, here's where it gets tricky, because I know a lot of the times that I was practicing, and even in the video, this is where I kind of messed up. I want to still make sure that I'm still in frame where I'm at here, okay? Because the next part is you've already created this motion here, and now you're still giving them that this is their card. So when you come back over here to grab here, now this is where it gets tricky, because as you turn sideways, you're just rolling the cards over, and the turnover pass, which is the next phase here, is such a beautiful move that can fool even yourself. Because initially when I learned this, going back, because we said the slip force is from Mark Wilson's course on Magic, and then the turnover pass I learned from Alex Pandrea, which was a lot of places you could learn it, because The reason why I like doing it this way is because the turnover pass has such a as he'd explained it in the video, it's very hard to pull off the turnover pass because you have to go from doing something like this to then justifying turning the deck back over if you're control. So in this case, all I did was created a moment where doing a turnover made sense to show you the bottom of the deck, which is the same card that we've been looking at the whole time, which is fine. So now as we flip the deck back over to here, I mean, you still want to show them the bottom card. You're going from here to here. If you feel comfortable and your cards are good enough to do a full-on, if you have a newer deck that's slightly broken in, you can even cover, I mean, you can get away with it. I mean, you just know your deck enough to know where it's going to peak and where it's not going to peak. So you can just, even if you flash, you can just quickly cover it if you just have your hand like this most of the time. So being that this is the reverse fan, which may have also been from Alex Pandrea, but there's a bunch of different places to learn it. It might have been Jay Sankey. I mean, that's I'll actually put a couple of different links down below that are nice ones to learn it. Now, if you want to use it in this routine, because like I said, it might not make sense to say, or it might make sense to say this as you're working on your pattern. Well, what you might be thinking is this. You started out thinking that all the cards were different cards. But then I showed you that all the cards randomly throughout the deck were actually the same card. Well, what if I were to tell you that it was actually the same card, literally the same card, and none of the other cards actually have anything on there? So as you close up to come back over to here, you want to then grab the card from here, which I believe was Daniel Madison or Alex Pandrea. I learned a lot of my card slides from Alex Pandrea for some reason. And then loading it back on top of the deck, but you don't have to, because here's the thing. At this point, you want this card to disappear. Okay? So unless you want to get it back on top, or you want it to show up in your pocket. So what you could say is okay, after you go from your reverse fan from here, and you're coming over to here, maybe what you want to say is this. If you have a close-up pad, you can actually flip the cards over, which also works, and get this card someplace out of the way for a second and just say, well, in actuality, I've kind of been lying to you the whole time, and all the cards are actually different. So, yeah, I do apologize for that, but, and here's where you can bring this in, where you bring this card back into play as you're scooping up these cards. But of course, at any time whatsoever, I could actually go right back into this. And even if you want to speed it up this time, where you're just like, and as you can see, all the cards are back to this again. However you want to do it, all this is just part of a larger cycle where you're creating this illusion that something is happening. Now, I'm not going to go into this, but I will explain that the larger version of this that I'm working on is with using a gaff card. If you're familiar with Canis Lupus, which most of you probably are, because they are fantastic. And of course, with everything that's going on with this giveaway. The larger version of this actually does require a duplicate card, but doesn't necessarily do so, because as I just showed, you could do card to pocket, you could do card to deck box, with anything that you want to do with that type of move. So hopefully, with this longer form of doing this trick, hopefully you guys have more of an understanding of what it is that what I'm thinking about as I'm going through this trick. And hopefully it makes sense, because that's really what we're hoping for with any time that we do anything, is that it makes sense. If you don't like that I do a crappy reverse fan, which maybe I should stop doing it if it's so bad, the other thing you can do is only just do a partial fan, which basically means instead of trying to do the whole thing like that, you basically just go a quarter of the way down as you tilt the deck back like this. Well, don't do that, because then all the cards are clubs that are in the deck. But you get my drift. Like you have the option to only do a couple of cards, or just do it facing you and then turn it around, however you want to do that, or get rid of it altogether if you don't feel like showing them that it's the only card in the deck. Maybe you just, instead of, once you've shown them the bottom, you just go back into this where you load the card back on the top and just say, hey, well, at any time if I snap my fingers, unless you're not trying to sell that, you're basically, you could, how would you do that? So this is the part where because we've talked about this with card reviews. Now we're talking about this trick review. What would we use this as part of? It's part of an ambitious card routine, or could we do something even more amazing? And instead of it being, maybe it goes into some type of card to wallet, card to deck box, tricks like that. That would make sense, because how would I do card to deck box? So here is the deck box right here, and then we've got that standing right there. Then we're showing you the 3. We're showing you the 3. Then we're really showing you the 3 there. And then I just tell you, now you're probably wondering, like, okay, I mean, obviously the deck is a full deck, right? I mean, it's not like all the cards are the 3. Okay, I can do this all day. But what's actually interesting is that not only are all the cards clearly not the 3 in here, there never actually was a 3 anywhere in the deck. You can even take a closer look if you want. There's actually no 3s whatsoever, except for the other 3 3s, because I've actually kept that card right here in the box the whole time. So, and again, this is just thinking off the top of my head of what we could do better, what we could do differently, because again, in the longer form, I've thought about this. I'm doing a card to box routine with an extra card. So in the case of this trick, basically what I'm trying to do is create the premise that all of the cards in the deck, which I could theoretically show that all the cards are different, and then I could theoretically say, well, what if we were just to have a random card here, which would be the 8 of Hearts? What if I were to remove all of the other cards from the deck and turn them all into the 8 of Hearts? What would that look like? Well, let's just say we go to a random card here in the center. Oh, look at that, 8 of Hearts, right? What if we went down here towards the bottom? Yeah, I guess that would be the case. Now I know what you're probably wondering. What you're wondering is, what if we cut the deck, or we just kind of went like this? See, that wouldn't work so much because I messed up. If you go into showing them all the cards now, then what was I saying? My brain sometimes. And then going to the box, but having the card. Sorry, I'm sure this happens to everybody. You lose your train of thought. You're setting up this illusion that first you show them that the deck is, and then you're I'm just following my train of thought here because we're thinking out loud. This is theory, right? So what we're doing is first we're trying to establish that the deck is all different, right? Okay, and then what we're trying to establish is that all of the cards are the same. Now that we've shown them that all the cards are in fact different, now we're showing them that all the cards are in fact the same. Now you could even then go into showing them, well, actually there's only one card in the deck and that is that particular card, or you could get rid of that altogether. Still going with the load back to the top, because you could do a little joke and say, well, why don't we try that again? Okay, there's that. And then what I would say is when you go towards the center like that, instead of going back to the bottom, which you could do it again, like I said, or you can change it. The idea here is that what you're trying to do is you're trying to first create the illusion that the deck is all the same, if you want to go that route, and then you're trying to prove that the deck is all... wait, did I say the same? I meant the same, but not in that fashion. So it's a normal deck. So first you establish the deck is normal, then you're creating the illusion that the deck is all the same card, and then what you want to do is you want to get rid of that card altogether. So I'd recommend having the deck box over here, because as you cut with this, you go to grab this, and as you're grabbing this up, You're spreading the cards out and showing them, and they can see clearly that their card was never actually in the pack. See, there's a 6 and a 8 and all that stuff. But in fact, your card was in the box the whole time, or something along that fashion. Fashion. If the card was in the deck box. If not, it could be pocket or any other numerous places that you would want that card to mysteriously appear as part of an ambitious card routine. And if that card had significance, so if you were doing a trick prior to doing the setup for this particular trick, that might make sense, especially if you want to do kind of like an invisible deck type of idea. But you'd have to kind of really narrow it down, because especially if you did something like had stack work, because now we're talking about the what if scenario. Because what if somebody said, I want you to, you have them pick a card and then it's like the 2 of diamonds. And obviously the 2 of diamonds is not on top. If they would have picked the Queen of Hearts, which is a common card, that would have been the case. Now you have to go through the pack, but here's what you can do. Obviously you can say, well, all the cards are in fact different. And this is where you would need to be, all the cards are upside down in this case to them. Unless, I guess you'd have to spread it the other way. How would that look? So if you were spreading it this way, then they would see all the cards. Now, the objective of doing that would be for you to locate a card, the card that they picked. As quickly as you go, I've already spotted the card here in the center. So what I'm going to want to do before they really get a good look at it is I want to bring this back in and get that card isolated as quickly as possible without them noticing to a certain extent. So, and then you can even start off with a turnover pass to get it to the top. And what that allows you to do is that allows you to kind of just mess around with the deck a little bit more. And then you can say, okay, now let's think about it like this. So you've clearly just seen that all the cards are different. Did you see your card in there? Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Well, now you go into it and say, well, would you be impressed if your card was on top? Because now you've created this moment, and you may have seen it because it was sloppy and it was just an idea off the top of my head. But is that your card? Oh, it in fact is your card. Well, what if that was the only card that was in the pack? There's your card there as well. And we're just randomly looking through the deck. We looked at the top, we looked at the middle, and now here is the bottom. Absolutely fantastic. Now, again, I moved this over to here. That's where you'd want it if you're going to do deck to box. Now, the question is, because because you spread the deck this way, if you want to do that. So now as you're grabbing this off from here, maybe you're going to grab the box to move it in order to spread the cards again, just like that. Just like as we did as the beginning. You said at the beginning you did not see your card, but your card was in fact in the deck. Or you did see your card. You did see your card. Now do you see your card, even though we've just seen your card? No, we do not see your card. Well, that's because your card is, in fact, in the box. So we're doing that repetitive thing here in terms of just using the box as an idea. Again, it could be to your pocket. That's not a problem. But that's the idea behind the trick. The idea behind it is an ambitious card is that you are creating the illusion, which I can concede the point after talking it out a little bit, that perhaps this is a good idea or maybe it's not. It depends on your style. Is especially if you have the access of a close-up pad to do that kind of thing, which in public, like the other way that you would do it is this, which they... my problem with showing the deck like this is, one, you can't see it. My problem with doing this is it's kind of a weird angle, depending on where people are standing. So if you do have the access of a close-up pad, doing this is fine. And basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to create this window, which again, I'd probably, if you take the deck out of the box, just to go over what we've discussed, if this is a good idea, place the box over here. Or hold it for the time being, because you want to give the impression that you can't put the box down. So basically, if you're looking to spread the deck out, and they've already named a card, the two let's say the 4 of clubs this time. You can't put the box down because it would be in the way here. So what you're going to do is just spread this out. You're going to quickly try to locate the 4, which is right here. Obviously, if I spread out a little bit better, it'd be better. But you want to do it quickly, because now at this point you're going to set the box down, and you're just going to isolate that 4 as quickly as possible, however you want to do it, in a way that might not seem as suspicious as what I just did, obviously. Then you go into your routine, doing this little subtlety where you're giving them the shoulder, obviously, because that helps with the angles of hiding things just a little bit better. And it creates this space, and you can move around to show people as well, but then you want to make sure that they're not seeing anything that's happening with what you're doing. And keeping in mind that I'm trying to be more mindful of the angles and things like that for this teaching purpose. Now you've got the card back on, now it's on the bottom, and now you want to get it back to this point here, which is basically, before you steal it, you want to say, okay, well, what if now that you've seen that all of the cards are in fact here, let's go ahead and get this out of the way and spread it out. Now, if you saw your card at first, great, but if not, it's still missing. Because I actually keep that card in particular has to stay right in the box here so that there's no confusion or anything like that. So that's kind of what I would do for that. Now, this video, these Magic Theory videos are always a little bit longer. If you want to talk more about this trick tomorrow on the live stream, because here's what I try to do, right? With the videos that I do, these are longer form content. These are discussion, and then when we go to the live stream, we actually try to flesh it out a little bit. So you've had a chance to really think about some of the stuff that I've done and talk about some of the stuff that you guys are working on, so that we can kind of come together as a little community here and help each other out. Again, if you don't like what I've done, if you think it doesn't work, let me know. And then if you think it does work, especially let me know, because then I'm actually creating movement here. I'm doing something of relevancy in my magic. So that's kind of what we're looking at for here today. And I hope you enjoyed this longer video with the breakdowns, especially if, in terms of showing you some magic, sometimes people learn better on the visual side of things, and maybe sometimes people just need an idea to get them sparked into a leapfrog type of action, which would be absolutely fantastic if I can inspire you, because why not? That's kind of a good thing. So thank you guys for being there, for watching. Otherwise, I would just be some guy talking to a camera, and I guess that would be fun too, but slightly different. And remember, stay positive, stay active, and stay awesome. And we will see you tomorrow for a fantastic live stream. And stay tuned for my next Trick-A-Day May video, which will be coming real soon.